Hi, Jim Phelps here. If you haven't been to my channel before, you can go to the trailer for description. This is an update on a previous video about the potential for reversing the changes of Alzheimer's. And this, I think, provides an important new perspective. If you haven't seen that one, you can go back to that and watch it first. It will make more sense to then come back to this one. In this update, new data about longer-term outcomes with lecanemab and other monoclonal antibodies. They look better, and that changes, I think, how we ought to be thinking of them. A better graph for lithium orotate in terms of its data on reversing Alzheimer's progression, undoing those changes in mice. And then where does that leave us now, these two new ways of thinking about it? Well, first, the longer-term outcomes on lecanemab. In the previous video, you saw this half a point difference at 18 months, about a year and a half, and it wasn't very big. Whereas we now have data from that lecanemab trial where that difference starts to widen to almost a point at 3 years, and they've reported but not yet published data from 4 years where it's almost 2 points. These data are from the so-called open label extension phase where it's no longer blinded and there isn't a placebo group. The comparison now is between lecanemab and people who had been in the placebo group who were no longer being treated. Now, again, for comparison, let me show you a better way to see the reversal of Alzheimer's changes in mice who had received lithium orotate. And this is the key graph in that respect. I should have used this in the previous video, but let me walk you through this. So first of all, we're looking at time spent in target area. Again, these are mice, and we're looking at their cognitive function. And the way this is tested in mice is to put them in a so-called water maze. They have to try to swim, which they don't like, to a platform where they can stand up. And they've been in this maze before, so they're trying to remember where is that platform. And a normal mouse remembers and swims quickly to spend time in the platform area only over a couple seconds, but they get there quickly and they spend more time in that area. Whereas one of these mice who's been bred to have Alzheimer's, if they've not received any lithium, they wander all over the place and they do not spend as much time in the target area. So this is a test of memory in a mouse. And now let's look at this thing called wild type. These are mice that are not bred to have Alzheimer's. These are like normal mice. And so they don't develop this memory impairment. And as you can see, they spend about 5 seconds in the target area in that water maze. The Alzheimer's mouse does not remember where the target is, so they spend less time in the maze if they were never treated with lithium. And that's what we see in this group. They were given regular water, not lithium in their water, and their performance is poorer. They don't spend as much time in the target area. So now let's look at what happens for mice who are the species that is going to develop Alzheimer's and indeed was developing the plaques and tangles of Alzheimer's even by 9 to 10 months. They were allowed to continue to develop that Alzheimer's pathology all the way until 17 months. And then were given lithium orotate from that point to 22 months. So this is like starting lithium orotate at late middle age and taking it until old age. And let's see how those mice did in the water maze. As you can see, not quite as good as wild type, meaning those who never got Alzheimer's, but far better than the group that was allowed to develop Alzheimer's and then never got lithium. So lithium in this case appears to be reversing the cognitive dysfunction that goes with Alzheimer's. And for comparison, lithium carbonate better than just water, so lithium did help, but not as much as lithium orotate. So what do we do with these new results here? Well, I'll tell you 3 things here. And the first is, I can't tell you what to do. I'm not sure in this circumstance I would know what to do, because on the one hand, we have good experimental design data showing that lecanemab and other monoclonal antibodies can decrease the worsening over time. And the longer you stay with it, the more advantage there is to that approach, versus data in mice saying maybe we could actually reverse the Alzheimer's changes, including loss of cognitive function. But these are data from mice, and we have no idea how they translate to humans because those experiments have not been done yet. Now, I can imagine people might think, well, I'll just do both, but the way these are supposed to act on the brain is similar. They're supposed to be removing amyloid plaque. And so if both are doing that at once, that could worsen um, the risk that is already present in that respect for lecanemab. So this is definitely not a good idea to put the two of them together unless somehow your neurologist was aware of the game plan and consented to it, which I don't imagine would happen, because we just don't know about safety in this respect. And there's very good reason to think that it would be not safe. It would worsen the risks of lecanemab. So instead, I think this puts more focus now on preventing Alzheimer's in the first place, and that's where lithium orotate, I think, has a particular potential role. This is after the lifestyle changes that we know are good ways to prevent Alzheimer's, Mediterranean or like diet, regular physical activity, not smoking, and so forth, the regular litany about how to prevent Alzheimer's. So I'll just link you now back to the previous studies, if you haven't been there before, the ones that lead up to these conclusions.